Hey everyone, let me add a few more of my colleagues in.
Hello.
Hey guys. Hey, so it's been 2 weeks and we are back again with the 9th edition of our webinar series. Very much welcome you guys back again. I hope you guys are excited what are the things that we have to share with you all in regards to, especially the things in regards to Cloud Next. This week is all about data, and we're gonna hear some exciting stuff later on. Yep, so here today, like my name is Hui Yuan. We have Harizon as usual. And so we are the usual suspects. But we have one more guy, as you see over there. Hope you guys will welcome him along with us. And yep, say hi to Akhilesh. Hey. Yeah. So hope you guys have been doing great in the past few weeks, maybe even months. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, like it's been a great time, right? I mean, National Day just went by. Like heard the fireworks was amazing, although I wasn't out there like watching anything. I was like sitting down in my room, a little bit occupied with code. Maybe that's not a good thing, but yeah, I mean, heard that National Day fireworks display was a blast. Heard that a lot of the uh, they kind of brought out the parade out to the heartlands, right? I mean, if I'm not wrong, like there was some big hoo-ha about some red lions, which is the parachuters, I guess they were landing at Sengkang area, like beside the hospital, uh, a way to kind of thank the healthcare workers in
Right.
the hospital. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of been a few two interesting weeks since our last webinar. I mean,
Mm.
on top of whatever that's happening with Cloud Next, of course. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I think to be honest, all the one thing I can remember is the Food Panda guy behind the entire mobile column.
yeah, that was kind of an epic moment, right?
Oh, that
Like,
went viral, man. I remember seeing that video and it was like everyone in front was so serious, or the policeman or whatever. And then you have this guy also on like a similar motorbike and he's like waving so enthusiastically at everyone.
yeah, but it does feel like a very apt moment where, I mean, okay, the parade is kind of to kind of kind of to commemorate like the whole like look at all these
Essential worker.
forces, essential workers, like kind of keeping Singapore safe, Singapore functioning. So like having that guy at the end is kind of like, it's a kind of an apt moment where it's like, oh yeah, that's true. Like these guys also, they kind of ensure that Singapore continues running, keep everyone kind of safe at home and everything. So yeah, it's kind of a very kind of a bit on a powerful moment to see that kind of stuff happening. Yeah, but it's definitely something that is not expected. Yeah.
Yeah. It was cheeky, but I agree with you. As in some sense, ever since the entire situation, COVID-19 situation, the industries have been changing, and I think definitely within the food delivery, those are kind of essential. I mean, yeah, you definitely will put them behind healthcare, but a lot of us do depend on them for in fact some of our daily needs. So that was kind of an apt moment. Yeah, I would agree with that. Uh, okay, anyway, so let's move on to what we have today, shall we? Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go to the next slide. So all right. In tradition with the last two webinars that we had, where we covered some parts of the Cloud Next content, this week, I think just to remind you guys that it's going to be mainly the 2 weeks that has passed was on security and data analytics. And if you have missed out the content, no worries. You can definitely like always go back to the Cloud Next website to view the different sessions they have that's already all recorded there. So you can view it throughout this entire 9 weeks. It's just that during the actual, like for example, this week as the data analytics week, you will be able to join like some events like the study jams during this period, like that's themed towards that topic itself. Anyway, yep. So just to remind you guys, yep. Similar to week 2 and week 3, where week 2 there was like lesser videos and week 3 infrastructure there were more videos. I think this week you can see somewhat reflection of the same thing. Security 26 videos, data analytics you have like explosion of 44 different videos across 3 different difficulty levels, which is introductory, intermediate, and advanced, if I'm not wrong. So you can, if depending on which level you are at, you can just go to that page in Cloud Next website and just filter for the level of topics that you are experienced with, and look for the things that you might be interested in. And that's just one more thing to mention. So yeah, this is the same thing we featured last week. So I'm just gonna go through this very quickly. You can go to this link over here to see the cheat sheet. It's not really a cheat sheet per se for like any exams or anything, but it's more for you to traverse through this entire event. So essentially, this guy wrote up this entire sort of a schedule you can stick to for Monday to Friday throughout this 9 weeks in Cloud Next. And essentially, they give you recommendations like, okay, Tuesday, most of our sessions come out at that time. I think for us, this is somewhere midnight, early morning of Wednesday. And then starting from that day, Wednesday and Thursday, right, you'll be looking more at like study jam, so on and so forth. And then Friday, which is for us, I think end of today, there'll be more talks by organized by DevRel in Google. And yeah, they also give talk about like the demos and videos. So in fact, okay, instead of talking about this, because I covered this last week already, definitely go and check out the cheat sheet. I'll just put the link over here very quickly again, GDG9 on air cheat sheet. So yeah, it's really very useful for you to traverse through the remaining 4 more weeks of Cloud Next. And okay, so with that, we're gonna go back to our usual segment of Human RSS, where we the humans will give you the latest news. Let's start off with the shiny new stuff in GCP. So I'm gonna hand over to Akhilesh, who will be talking about some of the new things that we have observed in these last few weeks.
Hey, yeah, thank you, Rian. And hi, everyone. Today is what, Wednesday? Thursday. Oh, yeah, happy Thursday. So, yeah, thank you for participating. I mean, just viewing the content here. So in the data analytics week, I've got some updates, and most of it is like respect to one of my favorite tools in GCP, which is BigQuery. And there's a lot of pretty interesting and cool stuff that's been released, which is we're like very, very excited to try it over the weekend. So just as a high level overview, there's improvement in performance compared to 2019. There's definitely some improvement in performance, and they've come up with the 4 nines SLA, which is the best in the industry. And so BI engine was like it was released earlier, but then there is the caching is for every query now, not just you don't have to set the cache manually. And there is a new auto scaling feature, which is pretty interesting. The admin panel is something. So if you've used BigQuery, you'll know that the resources spent, you need to have a separate dashboard for monitoring the resources and stuff. Admin panel kind of takes care of that for you. And slot commitments. There's a big news in slot commitments. We'll be discussing that later down the line. And pricing recommendation. This is a new product, which again we'll just give you an overview of what it is down the line. And big news. BigQuery Omni. This is a very interesting product, interesting feature. I was just going through the code samples just for an example, and just looking at that got me very excited, but I'm not sure if I'll be able to try it. But if I do have the opportunity to try it, I'd love to try this. And natural language in BQ is again another interesting feature that BigQuery, it comes with the product. And there's a new UI, which was intended to be very helpful. But yeah, couldn't like look at the entire UI in this small image that was presented with. So, and finally, ML. BigQuery, when BQML was released first, I was trying out logistic and linear regression, and I was hoping would they not include XGBoost, for example, and they did. And now you have clustering, you have recommendations, matrix factorization, and all cool stuff. So let's get started. Going next. So the product roadmap is standard product roadmap. You want to have BigQ everywhere and all the regions, and there's more flexible pricing this time around. and data platform interoperability, which is where BigQuery Omni is going to play a big role, presume. Um, so, and then intelligent, like we said before, a lot of ML has been brought into BQ, and you don't have to have multiple. You don't have to have like a Spark cluster that's running an ML job, and then you export the model or a TensorFlow model, and you export the TensorFlow model, and then you serve. You can have your data stored, processed, and build up the models in one single tool. So that's pretty interesting. And then there is real-time analytics, which is quite interesting as well. And in terms of dependability, there is more focus on security, IAM roles, more fine-grained roles. And in terms of administration, you'll be seeing the admin UI. And like we discussed in performance, there's a bit of improvement in the performance as well. So in terms of availability, there's a 4.9 SLA. So that's pretty much the roadmap. So going next. Starting with the big one. So BigQuery Omni. What is BigQuery Omni? So have you ever wondered, like if you've used BigQuery and you like BigQuery for its speed, for its performance, and you've wondered, so if you want to explore a really, like say a Belido data set, which is sitting in S3, now you don't have to move that data from S3 to GCP and then load it again into BQ. Now, all you have to, with BigQuery Omni, you have the power of taking the compute of BigQuery to to AWS S3, to AWS, and then you can query the data right where it is, but using the processing power of BQ. So this is powered by Anthos, which was released previously. And this is quite interesting because you get the speed of BigQuery and you don't have to, because multi-cloud, so this time around, over and over again, it was stressed that multi-cloud is the future. So more and more people do not want to be vendor locked, so they're preferring multi-cloud environment. So you can have your data in AWS, but you can use BigQuery to query. I think that's pretty awesome. And you have all the features that are native to BigQuery with BigQuery Omni. So going next, I'll show a small example of just a snapshot which got me excited. So there's your export data with connection and your AWS region and your S3 bucket. And you are reading all the files, which are all CSV files, and then you're selecting whatever columns you need, and then you're joining it with a table that you have in your local BigQuery table, and to get just a few whatever analysis you want to perform. So I think that's pretty awesome. I would, if I do get the chance, I would like to try that out and see how it works in terms of performance and convenience. So that's BigQuery Omni, which is quite exciting. So going next. So this is the 4.9 SLA. It's BigQuery is highly available, and it's the leading in the industry, and no extra charge offered for all BigQuery customers. So that's the 4.9 SLA that BigQuery is offering this time around. Going next. So BigQuery, it's fast. We know that. So it's really fast. But this time they've improved the performance, so it's faster. So with 1 terabytes, there is a 19.2% increase in 2020. With 10 terabytes, there is a 28.4% increase in 2020, and with 30 terabytes, there is a 19.9% increase in performance, which is proof that they're continuously working on improving the performance. Like it's not fast enough already. So yeah, that's pretty nice as well. That's pretty interesting. There's just a small snapshot in the next slide where so it's not pretty obvious here. So what it's the circle marks, it's actually saying that for the query that took 1 minute and 53 seconds or something on that range, it only takes 4 seconds now. So that's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool as well. From 2018 to 2020. So that's pretty awesome. So going next. we have automated slot management. So if you're familiar with slots, um, slots are like CPUs that you can buy when you're processing queries. So when you run a BigQuery query, you see that there is a bunch of things that's happening under, like there is a bunch of slots that are getting allocated. So you can, the cool thing about this is, so you can buy slots. If you feel like your query is taking a long time, let's say you're querying petabytes of data and you feel like your query is taking time, you can buy extra slots for processing that query, like for an hour even. And the cool thing about it is the minute you buy the slot, or should I say the second you buy the slot, your query performance will increase because it's using the slots. You don't have to stop your query. You don't have to go back, reset anything. So your query has been running for, let's say, 30 minutes, and then you buy a few slots, and then your query is going to run faster. So that's one of the cool things that I found. And automated slot management is, you can say you have 500 slots, and then you can buy 300 slots as buffer, and it would auto scale to that 300 slots. So that's the new feature. And once it's used up the slots, it will fall back to the 500 slots, so that the 300 slots remain. They're not built for. So that's the third point, that's the slot increases accelerate queries in flight. So that's pretty amazing. I found that pretty cool. So yeah, going next. So earlier there were 500 slots minimum purchase, but now the minimum purchase is 100 slots. So that's one of the features for helping like people who are willing to try out new stuff, trying in terms of performance, so that would benefit them a lot. In the previous slide, there was a Bitly link giving the exact. So there are new features in BQ. That is the cloud, the entire video, which I strongly recommend. As the presenter is pretty good, and it's explained all of this in a very, very neat and nice way, in terms of like with an example of a small startup slowly like starting off in the initial stages, trying out BQ and with the product, and then scaling up to thousands or millions, and then to over a billion. And then how BigQuery, there is no change in the infrastructure, or there is no change like there is not many changes, I would say, in the way that they're operating. They just need to buy more slots, some here, some there, just that. So that's kind of interesting. So how this is to explain how BQ suits for a very small industry, just for someone who's just trying, and to an enterprise. So there is a wide range of scale out there. So that's the new thing about the video is pretty awesome. Okay. And going next.
I think that, so before we move on, shall we just answer this question? I think someone asked a question about how do we manage slots?
In what sense? You buy fixed slots. So BigQuery has come up with what they call flex slots, which are flexible slots. I think you can buy them for an hour, or I'm not sure if it's an hour or even 60 seconds. You can check that out in the video, or I'll come back. I'll get back to you on that one. But you can buy slots for a monthly, yearly or yearly basis. So you buy those slots, and then you have it with you. It's more like purchasing CPU. So that's pretty much, I guess that's kind of how you manage the slots. But there is the concept of flex slots, which is pretty interesting this time. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add on as well, like when you are a Google, like when you first get onto Google Cloud Platform, you can immediately use BigQuery. It's not as if you need to buy slots just to get started. You are already kind of, you can kind of start off with BigQuery without thinking of this whole slots concept. This slot concept is mainly for, for the big boys, for the enterprise guys who really hit the limits of your usual like Google Cloud Platform account. So, okay, so I do kind of vaguely remember some numbers. Don't quote me on this. So if I'm not wrong, initially the amount of slots you can kind of have if in your normal account is like 2,000 slots, which is already kind of a lot. But from what I hear, and if I'm not wrong, it's on a best effort basis. So if there happen to be capacity, you'll be able to utilize the whole full 2,000 slots. If not, maybe halfway through, maybe your query can accidentally fail. So there are many ways to kind of deal with this whole query failing. So one way is to actually increase the amount of resources that you provide to the query, which is the purchasing of slots. And last time, in order to purchase slots, you need to talk to a Google Cloud partner, and then they'll tell you about this whole slots thing. It's just that this slots thing is usually a non-issue until you reach that level of scale where you run like 40 or 50 queries at the same time for the same account, and all the queries like instantly hits like gigabytes of data in that same second. So so sometimes you kind of wonder whether do you actually need to run it all in that same hour or same second or something? Like, can you like spread out your queries? So yeah, just that just one thing to kind of ponder about. Like, yeah, this whole BigQuery slots is flexible and all, but the thing is now you need to pay more for that increased capacity to run the queries. So yeah, hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Riz. I didn't know that we had to approach a cloud partner, get slots. Yeah.
Yeah, that
So
was like 1 year ago or 2 years ago.
right. So pricing recommendations is something that BigQuery has come up with, which will recommend the. So it's like BigQuery slot recommender. How many slots do you might need? I think it's something similar to the VMs. If you don't use a VM for a while, it will say you can stop or pause the VM and then save so much monthly. I believe it's something along those lines. I'm not so sure of that, but that's the slot BigQuery slot recommender, and it's in alpha right now. So yeah, sounds pretty interesting to try out. So going next. So this is the security part of it. I think we did do a talk on BigQuery security and around, you can have IAM roles. You can restrict access to people on a column basis. So instead of removing those columns and saving it as a new table and then giving that to giving people IAM roles to access that table, you can have column-wise restriction, and BigQuery of the data is always encrypted in transit and at rest. And yeah, I didn't go through this a lot. To be honest, I was not very excited by this. I mean, data security is important, but then the fine detail of this, I didn't go through it. There is more interesting stuff down the line. So going next. So this is the new UI. I couldn't zoom any further. I tried. I did try to see what the new UI looked like. Looks to me like it's more organized, which that's my guess, I guess. So yeah, that's about the new UI, and you have like multi-tabs editing, and then suggestion as you type. I believe when you do a tab, it would suggest at least the data set earlier. So just it'd be nice to try out what's new in this new in the new UI. Yeah, whenever we can. So going next. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is pretty. This was pretty interesting as well. So, some of us, it's the thing about BigQuery is you cannot draw graphs or anything within BigQuery, but that's where you have this integration with Google Sheets. Now you can query billions of rows of data from Google Sheets, and your processing is happening in BigQuery. and all your tables, charts, and formula, everything is in Google Sheets. So a easy and presentable way to do your analysis, but also especially for someone who's like familiar with Excel and Google Sheets and does not want to there are other BI tools like in this Data Studio, but there's a really small learning curve to learn Data Studio. So if you do not want to do that, then you can directly connect your Google Sheets to whatever BQ data set that you want, and then you can start playing around with charts and playing around with the data to derive insights. So I think that's pretty cool. That's a nice feature to have. So, Riz and Wayne, do you have any thoughts on this? How often you think people would be interested in using this kind of, or what kind of people, which profile would be interested in using this feature?
Personally, like in my opinion, the at least for the this whole connected sheets feature, right? Which, like, as we say, does the query to BigQuery behind the scenes. Most likely, it will appeal more to analysts who, like, maybe they work with a lot of the marketing data. So if you have been working in the marketing space, like, some people would know that sometimes the data in the marketing space will kind of by default land on BigQuery, and having this feature, like, you can't just go and tell like any old analyst, like, okay, so I know you are familiar with Google spreadsheet, and now I want you to learn SQL and go like extract your data from BigQuery. Like, sometimes it's like really hard for them to do so. So this kind of Google spreadsheet kind of provide them, like what is like mentioned, that familiar interface. So so they can have that one spreadsheet that connects to BigQuery, and then on top of that, then they can like maybe write some kind of formula. I'm not sure how that works. Uh, maybe that maybe their formula will kind of call on this sheet, and this sheet will then run the query. Yeah, but personally, I have never tried this yet. But I would say that in the past, in one of my job, I think it's kind of my first job. One of the first things that I needed to do was to bring data from BigQuery into Google Spreadsheet, and that's not a fun thing to do. Google Spreadsheet has that, like, default Google Spreadsheet has a limited number of rows, and like, dumping like 10,000 rows of data into Google Spreadsheet during that time wasn't a fun experience. Like, you'll keep facing like API issues, API timeouts, and then like for some odd reason when the analyst try to scroll it, the whole interface just lags. And yeah, it's not a fun it's not a right way to do things. Like, I'll be there like, okay, I know I can like automatically do the export for you to Google Spreadsheet, but seriously, you should start learning BigQuery SQL, so that you can do this, and then export the data and get your final result, rather than me extracting out like some sort of like half parsed raw data into Google Spreadsheet so that you can do further analysis. It sounds like a weird idea, but I don't know. This kind of how analysts roll with things. The things that people do just to get their job done quickly.
What do you think if this is mixed with AppSheet, like the one we talked about last webinar? So AppSheet is basically, for context of the audience, like being able to grab the data from your Google Sheets and create applications, no code. I think no, we talked about this 2 webinars ago. Like, what do you guys think if we throw to AppSheet instead, the result of some data? Yeah.
That will be a interesting. Okay, but that will kind of bring about like interesting problems as well, because like BigQuery is more of a pen, like you can't exactly do append operations of BigQuery, right? If I'm not wrong, yeah. So, or maybe you can, but there's a certain limit per day. I'm not sure how AppSheet will interact with Google Sheet, which will then interact with BigQuery. So I don't know. Like, someone out there needs to go and try it out.
In a way,
Yeah.
I guess that would be kind of like Data Studio-ish. Like let's say if you block the write to your AppSheet application and you only allow reads, and then you design like some charts, essentially it's just reading data off the Google Sheets. It's kind of Data Studio back again.
Correct. But
Yeah.
the one that you mentioned is AppSheet.
AppSheet, yeah.
Yeah, and the AppSheet can add records.
Right, yeah.
And BigQuery, I know, can add records, but there is a limit. I mean, it's a very, very bad practice in the first place. But yeah, there is a limit. I think the latest number I remember was 100 or 1,000, either of the numbers. But it doesn't sound like a good idea. Someone needs to try it out. If maybe the integration works, who knows?
Project for the weekend. Yeah, so data Q&A, this is the natural language interface for BigQuery. It's like if you've used Slack, you can do a / set reminder for whatever time, or remind me to drink water at 10 a.m. If you've used like Google, even in Google, you can do like set reminder to wake me up at some time. So in such a way, I believe they're bringing about the power of natural language processing for querying data in BigQuery. If we can go to the next slide, I think I did have a. Oh, okay. I did not take that snapshot. It's like you can ask questions like count of whatever, I don't know, count of fruits in this database. Let's say there's a column name, fruits, vegetables, and a count of fruits. So and then it would automatically understand that you need to get a count where the column name is equal to fruits, the column value, so the row value is equal to fruits, and then it will return the count, the total count. So that's that would be interesting to try as well. And so this is the interface that they're planning to provide with data Q&A. So there's Slack, there's Hangouts, and there's Looker. So one of the things that I saw this time around is a few videos on Looker. Looker was acquired by Google recently. It's part of Google Cloud now, and there are people have started using Looker for data exploration as part of GCP as well. So that's something interesting. So I believe they might have some sort of interface in Looker which will allow you to type in something and then you get query results without having to explore data, learn SQL or even Excel or I like Google Sheets to explore the data. So that's something interesting. It'd be nice to try that out. So going forward, so this is getting data into BigQuery. I don't remember seeing a lot of this. So there is some new additional apps that's been added for data transfer from different applications. The usual marketing, there was integration with ads. I believe there was integration with YouTube and AdSense. So there are more new products. No new apps that have been added for bringing data into BigQuery. So yeah, going next. AutoML table. So this is where we start off with the machine learning. BQML provides the ability to. So can we go to the next slide? In the next slide, if you see, this is where you have like the entire new cool ML stuff that's available with BQML. So earlier we used to have logistic regression and linear regression, but now we have deep neural networks that's running with TensorFlow. We have XGBoost, that's boosted trees, and AutoML is it chooses the algorithm, the best fitting algorithm for you. You don't have to learn, all these complicated algorithms anymore. So there's classification. There's all of this for classification, and there is more for regression along the same line. So there's DNN, there's XGBoost, and then there is also AutoML for regression. And this is something that I've been wanting to try out for a while. So there's k-means clustering for clustering, of course. And then there is recommendation matrix factorization. So when I did try out matrix factorization on my own, it was a pain. Also to initially to understand the concept and also to try it out, it was a pain. And similarly with classification, even with XGBoost, there is a bit of a learning curve. And even with the code that they have, there is a bit of like if you've used BQML before, you know that you don't have to one-hot code your you don't have to take care of any of that. BQML takes care of one-hot encoding, dealing with categorical variables and all that. So I just want to try out how our recommendation matrix factorization works with the BQML. And I believe that one of the problems that one of the issues that people had said was we are running a models in BQ, but we need to get the data set inside BQ to predict. So that's why they said, okay, we'll move the model outside BQ. So now you can build a model in BQ, and then you can export that model and then use that model for your inference for predicting in any other I believe it was Kubeflow or ML Engine. You can import the model there, post the model there, and start allowing traffic and start your prediction. I think that's pretty cool. That's something it would be nice to try that out as well. It's a TensorFlow model and be inference graph. So going next. So this is like a snapshot of how that works. For the sake of the audience, if you're not familiar with BQML, you should just Google. It's just a very simple create statement. You create a model, and then you tell BQML where you want to put the model. And then in the model type, you give stuff like, is it RML classifier? Is it a classifier? Is it graded XGBoost, or is it DNN classifier? And then you provide it with the labels, and then you provide it with the input data. So the input columns. So that's it. So you build a model, and then to evaluate a model, there's just a simple command that's called ml.evaluate, if I'm not wrong. And to predict, it is simply ml.predict. So that's how simple it is. I haven't tried the export yet, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's available in our region yet. I need to check that. I'll get back to you on that. But yeah, this sounds like a really nice and cool feature. This reduces the effort taken to learn machine learning or deep learning, just for the sake of like trying out stuff. Because the accuracy when I was playing around with BKML was it was pretty decent. So yeah, it abstracts most of the hard work with machine learning. All you have to do is clean the data, and to clean the data, and process the data, you can always use BigQuery SQL. So that's quite interesting. Yeah. So going forward. So this is the admin panel UI. So it's to help monitor slot usage. Who in your organization is using up a lot of resources? Do you want to put cost restrictions in place, like perform root cause analysis as to where most of the resources are being used and where your chunk of the price is coming from? So I think this should be very useful, because when I was playing with BQ, one of the things is to estimate the cost. You had to have a report in Data Studio, and then you keep monitoring, like, okay, this is where this is coming. This is the person who's using that. I think admin panel UI is something that simplifies that process and is integrated with GCP as part of the BQ package. So that's about the admin panel UI. And going forward, yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about BQ that I wanted to share. Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Akhilesh. So I think breaking kind of the chain of the news of BigQuery, I think definitely there's some later on. But just to cover some interesting stuff that we have seen over the last few weeks as well. Not on data analytics, but this one is a very interesting release from actually yesterday, which I saw during within the release notes. So we had the recommendations API or rather the UI itself as well. I think just now Akhilesh was talking about the alpha release for the variant in BQ, right? And over here, like I mean, previously we also talked about the other variants for the VMs as well as for your IAM privileges, because if some people they might have too much privileges but they're not using it, maybe you want to look at removing those privileges. This one is another new recommendation, but it's still in beta, or rather it just went into beta. And the interesting thing here is that I think for most of us who may be just using like some VMs, you might be on the sustained use discount. Okay, so that's like a certain level of discounts that you have. But this one is different. This is the committed discounts, committed use discounts, where I think in the last few webinars we talked about the 1 year or 3 year commitment that you can put in for using the VMs for certain periods. So if let's say you want to commit to using a single VM of a certain CPU count for 1 whole year, you'll get a certain level of discounts. And over here, I think the really interesting thing here is that they look at your usage and they'll recommend to you, is it worth it to actually use this commit use discounts? So it's a really great additions to all the other recommendations that they are offering right now. Okay, and so yeah, if you're interested, you can take a look over here at this link over here. And moving on, so this one I'm very excited to talk about this because Cloud Run came out in Cloud Next last year, and 1 year plus later now, like if you have been using serverless tools, Cloud Run itself is something that probably you have tried out, but you always need to select the region, like US Central one, stuff like that. You can never select it in the the Asia region, especially for the Southeast Asia region for Singapore. But finally, they released it. This was late last month, July 27th. In fact, I'm so excited. I'm actually wearing the Cloud Run t-shirt. And yeah, I think it's kind of a good like callback in this period where because we just had National Day, this thing came along the same period as well. So if you are using the serverless tools and you have been looking at Cloud Run, I think this is a really exciting time for you. If your business only operates in Singapore, for example, or in the Southeast Asia region, you can just set up Cloud Run very quickly and be able to use within this same region as well, better latency for your application overall. So Asia Southeast one, as you see over here. Okay, so let's move on to the next session or next section on tips and tricks. And yeah, so Harizan, can you talk to us about these tips and tricks?
Yeah. So this segment is gonna be like pretty short. So essentially, I'm not gonna elaborate on like the specific tips that these speakers do talk about, because like some of these go into quite deep in detail. But yeah, so some of the videos that are being released may be kind of interest to some of the audience out there. So let's say if you are using, firstly, if you're using a tool called Airflow to manage your data manipulation or your data pipeline, do your manipulation or whatever, there is this tool in the Google Cloud family called Cloud Composer, which is essentially manage Airflow. Naturally, if you are going to listen to this talk, naturally they're gonna advertise quite heavily on rather than you manage your own Airflow environment, which I do hear from a friend is actually a rather painful process, where dependencies kind of break the product once in a while. I haven't had the experience. All I do hear is from this friend who manages his own Airflow environment is quite painful. So I assume that a managed Airflow environment will be kind of the safer option to go for if you don't want the hassle to kind of manage all those all the whole Airflow plus all the tooling and all the environment that surround it. So naturally, if you watch this video, that's like tip number one. If you are okay with it, do ensure that you use some sort of managed version of Airflow, which is in Google Cloud Family Cloud Composer. But yeah, I mean, there are some tips that might be of interest for you, for the guys who are also into the open source area. So one is make sure that you monitor what's going on within your airflow tool. So you don't want to like start the thing and then it's like, oh, okay, whether it succeeds, I just check the UI, I suppose. You kind of want to make sure that it succeeds, the amount of time taken, resources taken, those kind of things. Yeah, it may seem like trivial, may not be so important initially, but then as you have like more and more of these pipelines running in parallel, like you'll start to face a lot of problems. So it's good to have these kind of practices from the start. So this video here kind of covers plenty of such details, although you do have to take some of these advice with a grain, okay, maybe with a bit of salt, because some of the advice I kind of don't agree with, such as one is um, for your dependencies, don't ever lock them. uh, and there are kind of reasonings for why lock dependencies and why you do not lock dependencies. Generally, my opinion is to lock if you can, so that this locked version of dependencies will ensure that you have a more repeatable deployment of your Airflow. But if you're using manage, I guess it's fine. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling on here. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it for these Cloud Composer tips. So let's move on to the next one. And next one, in tune with whatever that was mentioned earlier in this slide with by Akhilesh. And so we kind of cover a lot of BigQuery and data analytics in Google Cloud. Like it's almost synonymous with BigQuery. Like you don't like the other cloud products don't get much spotlight as compared to BigQuery and its performance and its greatness and all the stuff that it can do. So naturally with BigQuery, it is a complex product. There are many ways you can tune to get the results that you want. I think the first part of this video, the link is down there. So first part of the video is essentially telling you some tips on how to write good queries. So I do have tips of my own as well, which is if you ever write a query, don't add your sort for your query in your subqueries. There's no reason to sort your subqueries. And sorting is one of the more expensive processes in BigQuery. So putting a sort, I mean, you want anyone out there, you can just try it out. You can put sort in your subqueries and you can have like 4 or 5 nested subqueries. You will easily run into the insufficient slot issue. You say like query is unable to be completed in a certain amount of time because not enough resources. That's because sort is expensive. It requires all the data to be put into a single like shard to make sure that it's arranged in a proper order, and that's what you told it to do. But it's not necessary if it's in a subquery, because at the end of the day, that is going to get merged, and then you will lose your all your sort. So there's no point to sort. So that's I do think they kind of hint to this tip in that's like the first like 10 minutes of this video. But yeah, like you kind of have to hit the issue to kind of feel the pain of it to realize how important this tip is. So another thing that they were mentioning is about let's say if you're writing a query, you kind of want to understand the performance behind it, like how distributed is is the data being processed equally across all the nodes that's being used for the query. Like these are behind the scenes. You generally don't have to think about that. But then if you kind of want to understand why your query is not performing as well, that's kind of where you kind of have to do a slight deep dive, and then you can understand it. You can understand the performance of the query by looking at this like query plan information. I think that's at the bottom half of below your query window, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I generally don't use the query that much. Yeah. So maybe Aklia can mention like if he spotted this query planting before.
Yeah, you can see that, but yeah, never never understood what was happening until recently. Not very. Uh, I need to take a look at this as well. It's quite interesting. Along the lines of the sorry, can I add one more tip?
Yeah, sure.
The one of the most basic tips when using BigQuery is never use select star. Like never, because it's going to scan the entire data set for you, entire table for you. Um, the data is stored in a columnar format, so it's best to use know which columns you need for your analysis, and then choose just those columns so that the amount of data that you're scanning is less. So I think that's kind of the basic 101 when you're starting to use BigQuery. Uh, yeah, and there is no point in even using select star limit 10. It's scanning the entire data set for you or the entire table for you anyways. So yeah, that's something that I wanted to add. Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I guess that's end of tips. I guess we'll just move on to community content, which is also going to be a pretty short section. So in terms of community content, I mean, it's not exactly by the community. It is more like content that the community will find interesting of sorts. So one of the things that kind of will be interesting for those who have never, like, who kind of want to understand the whole SRE process that Google kind of runs behind the scenes, is this whole thing about Google Meet. So as with this whole COVID situation going on, everybody forced to work from home. Then naturally, video conferencing solutions are kind of required in our line of work, or in kind of like the white office worker kind of work. So so Zoom is one of the video conferencing solutions out there that kind of came in, and then it kind of grew. Then, like, with some of the concerns there, like an alternative that Google kind of provided is Google Meet. And initially, Google Meet was kind of like small in scale, but like, so far there hasn't been like any big announcement about, oh, Google Meet went down or anything. There hasn't been that announcement. So it's kind of interesting, because the thing is, like, during this period of time, so many people are heading into so many people kind of require this video conferencing tool, and Google Meet is one of those tools, but it it didn't even suffer an outage. I mean, if there was, I wasn't aware of it. But yeah, so this article kind of like summarizes like what goes on behind the scenes, what are the processes that as is the SRE team in Google, which is in charge of the Google Meet product, what they did to ensure that this Google Meet didn't melt under high workload. So if you see the graph on the right, that is definitely a pretty scary graph. I think it's a good thing that they didn't put numbers in. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, they did mention that it hits in the millions. Like, there is some million number there. Like, I'm not sure millions of hours or is it millions of users in concurrently. But yeah, that is definitely one scary number to think of. And look at the amount of traffic that this product kind of received during this short period of time. So so in order to kind of like ensure that the product is able to cope with this, like, they had to do a whole bunch of processes, quickly get like uh, like kind of the people to make sure that the product, like some guy on standby to make sure that the product, if any issues come up, the guy will kind of resolve it, and they have a standby for that standby. Yeah, that's one of the things that they mentioned in the article, just in case because like this they predicted they kind of predicted that this whole process will take like quite a while to kind of resolve. So that's why they have a standby to make sure that you know the engineer on standby to make sure that if Meet ever has any issues, the guy can quickly resolve it. But in case that guy suddenly falls sick because of high workload, he has to be like active all the time, right? So you have a standby for that guy. So and both of them were kind of like equal in knowledge, hopefully, and both of them should be able to like cope and try to solve the issues without too much problems. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see what goes behind the scenes. Can kind of see like some of the philosophies and principles that are at the Google has the SRE book, right? So they mention about some of the best practices that they had. So kind of interesting to see how they apply it in this case. So one of the things that they mention in the book is you make sure you have some sort of disaster plan. So in case like stuff happens, like your engineers kind of know like there's some sort of book or some kind of way, some kind of like thought out way on how to solve the issue. In this case, in the article, they mentioned that they couldn't rely on it because they didn't they didn't expect to hit such scales. Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting thing to kind of see. Yeah. All right, so let's go to the next one, which is also another interesting but kind of hits home a little bit. So just now Akhilesh was mentioning this thing about Google Data Studio. So Google's Data Studio is kind of a visualization tool that kind of born within the Google family quite a while back. I think before Looker came along. If I'm not wrong, Looker is also another visualization tool, but yeah, that's besides the point. So let's focus on Data Studio. So for Data Studio, it already like kind of works with BigQuery quite easily. So there isn't too big of a deal out there. So like Data Studio works with BigQuery. You can issue query federated queries like pretty easily. That's non-issue here. So in terms of building the petabyte scale reporting, if you watch the video, you realize that okay, there isn't that much. The integration is done. There's no engineering magic that one needs to do. Just connect, hook them together, and that works. The thing that is kind of interesting to kind of hear within this video is the part about this problem that they had, which is, so for Data Studio, there are kind of two modes to kind of get the data into the dashboard. So one is all the data within the database is available to Data Studio, and that's the kind of the default mode. So like, let's say if you hook up to some BigQuery database, all that data is kind of available for everyone to kind of query. Or another one is to use user permissions, but that user permissions kind of require you to have the data in like kind of separate databases or separate tables within BigQuery. Yeah, so that didn't work with this model that they had, where they have all the data in kind of one table or one data set, but they want to be able to segment that data. Let's say if this user came in, it's like some sort of filter on that one data set. So that is kind of a non-default option in Google Data Studio. So one of the things that Data Studio has is this thing called custom community connectors. And that's what they did here, which is to create and build a custom connector just to be able to have some sort of like in-between kind of engine where, like, let's say if this user come in, it kind of passes some sort of like filter to be passed down to the BigQuery. That thing in the middle, it doesn't do the query itself. It like passes it back to Data Studio and asks Data Studio to go and do the query for it. So yeah, I'm not exactly too sure like how the whole thing under the hood kind of works. But they do mention they did like provide some details about like this whole custom connectors and like how one can build it with app script and stuff like that. So I guess if one wants to understand all the stuff that's happening behind the hood, I guess the best way is to actually try it out. yeah. So that's it for this part.
Okay, so we're the last part, the learning corner. So just to go through some of this, I think we have talked about it in the last few weeks, but because they, for some reason, I think, because, well, I think in conjunction with Google Cloud Next, they have extended some of these programs to encourage people to, for example, get the certification as well. And yeah, okay, I'll be talking about that in a bit. Anyway, so if you have not yet like known about it, like the entire of this webinar so far, we've been just mostly talking about Cloud Next. But if you have not yet went to their site and check out the sessions, I would very much recommend that you check out that link over there in the page, cloudwithgoogle.com/next/SF. Anyway, yeah, so once you get there, you'll be able to choose, you'll be able to sort of indicate your interest for the content that you want to actually see. Because over the 9 weeks, right, so this is week number 5, every single week there's a different there's different themes, you know, for different content. This week the theme was data analytics. Last week it was security. So we have 4 more weeks of content for Cloud Next on air. And yeah, you can sign up for it. In fact, if you have missed the past few weeks, you can still view those videos of the sessions over the last 5 weeks. And learning opportunities. So once you go to that link, you'll actually be able to traverse to this page called the Learning Hub. If not, I think you can actually also just go directly via this link over here, GDG9 Learn Hub. You'll be able to open a few tabs. So over here, I think this one was actually an old screenshot from our previous webinar for week 3. But in fact, every single week, there's actually a different list of things you can do. So it'll be a similar list over here where they will tell you, you know, there's a study jam for this week. There's a Cloud Hero that you can join. I'll talk about that in a bit. The talks that you can actually attend, you know, not just those sessions that we just talked about, but also those by DevRel, you know, the earlier cheat sheet that I talked about earlier on as well. Yeah, so I think one very exciting thing is Cloud Hero. If you like gamification, you like collecting badges, skill badges on Quick Labs, for example, this is definitely something you should check out. We have already gone past 4 weeks. Week number 2, they actually skipped week number 2. So week number 4 was the last one for last week. And every week on Tuesday to Wednesday, they actually open a new week for Cloud Heroes. And this week, the Cloud Hero is the same theme for data analytics. So you can actually join in this this single quest, right, to try out different labs that they have prepared or sort of curated for this quest. So once you finish that, I believe this week is 7 regular labs in regards to BigQuery, and 1 more challenge lab where they won't actually give you instructions. You have to try and find out like how to complete the lab on your own. But once you're done with that, I think at the end of the campaign, they'll actually award you with the badge. Of course, if you did very well, if you managed to score, like, I think like the top worldwide or something like that, I think they'll give you some swag as well. And yeah, this is kind of like the previous badges for the past few weeks. Yeah, you can actually find this on their public profile on Quick Labs. So yeah, as mentioned about Cloud Hero, like week number 5, you can actually go to this link over here to get to the page. You must log in first to your Quick Labs account. And yeah, so beyond the study jams or Cloud Hero, you know, things that you can do on Quick Labs, you know, now that you're able to practice some of your skills on Quick Labs, what can you do with those skills? Of course, you know, not just for work, but if you want to actually practice your skills and get some certification for that, you can actually do that. If you go to this link over here, Google Cloud Training, it'll be a link where you can actually put in your details. They will give you a free month of access to Quick Labs. I think you also get like access to Pura site and some more stuff. So this is mainly to give you the opportunity to try out and learn more about GCP in general. In fact, if you're not familiar with Quick Labs, when you start using Quick Labs, in fact, you'll see that it's like a sandbox where you can just play around with the different tools in GCP. So it's really useful because you don't have to spend a single cent to start learning about cloud technologies. And definitely, yeah, sign up for this, get a free month of Quick Labs. Definitely it'll go a very long way for you to, even if you don't get a certification at the end of this, at least that free 1 month, you'll be able to use that to learn many different things in Quick Labs for GCP. And so that's all in regards to the learning corner. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the different content by me and my colleagues today over here, Akhilesh and Harizwan. And yeah, before we end off, just to mention, we're always looking for speakers. This is together with our sister group, GDG Singapore. I mean, we're not just looking for people who are in using Google Cloud or using BigQuery and stuff like that. Not just within GCP sphere or GCP alone. I mean, if you're a speaker or if you're someone who has worked on Chrome or TensorFlow, Kotlin, stuff like that. And of course, yeah, GCP, we're definitely also looking for GCP speakers. So if you are someone working on these technologies, you have something that you want to share with the community, please do, hit that link over here, bit.ly/GDGSGCFP, okay? We will look for your, we'll look for your entries, and definitely, if those entries are interesting, we'll talk to you and try to get you within our webinars, or in GDG Singapore, they also have their own meetups. They will try to get you in for different talks in the different events. So yeah, if you're interested, please do sign up over here. Just leave this on a little bit more for you guys. Okay.
Anyway, on a random note, before we end off, just for information, GTG Singapore is going to have, I think, a webinar this Saturday, if I'm not wrong. So let me put up the link here. So I think the webinar is, hold on, let me pull up the details. I don't have the details here. Give me a moment. I think it's the title of the talk is Full Cycle People Leadership, and is by this guy from Netflix. I think he's director of engineer Bruce Wang. Bruce Wang. Yeah. So we got the page, meetup page up. So that's nice. So yeah, so if you are interested, I mean, I think the topic this time that they are hosting is not exactly technical content, but let's say if you are like in mid-career and you kind of want to know, like, okay, like what is like the management leadership kind of engineering role, what is it like, that kind of stuff, I suppose. Is this Saturday in the morning. Yeah, so if you are interested, just sign up. And head there, or I mean, just come to that YouTube link. Then, like, if there are points that you are kind of interested in or anything, you can kind of post questions there, and kind of grill and drill him on on some of the tips that you are kind of interested in.
Yep. So I think it was good that Harizwan brought this up. So I'm going to be a host for that event as well, and definitely, if you have any questions, do try to post them within the chat itself. If on YouTube, in fact, okay, that's only going to be on YouTube. So if on the YouTube, there should be a chat on the right side of the page, so you can just post your questions there. If we can, we'll try to ask those questions. Of course, there's going to be a limited time for us to be able to ask Bruce some of these questions, and we'll try to limit it to the questions that most people are asking. So yeah, if you are really interested in some questions, you can just RSVP to this event via meetup.com. You can actually already just put in your questions, your initial questions there. But we'll also look up for the chat tomorrow. Sorry, not tomorrow, Saturday. Yeah. So see you guys at that period, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 on Saturday, early morning to afternoon. Okay, let me change back. All right, so yeah, before we end off, so regular social media links. If you have not yet followed us on Facebook, please do follow us there. I mean, we usually try to share as much information, not just on GCP. I mean, we try to share knowledge that we learn, via the Facebook group as well. And definitely, if you are here today because of our meetup event, or if you find our link on YouTube. But if you want to subscribe to our future events, do definitely follow us. Join our meetup group via meetup.com, GDG Cloud Singapore, where we'll post our events over there. And yeah, if you're interested in Slack, you can also join our Slack group as seen over here. And yeah, with that, we've come to the end of today's webinar. Again, thanks Akhilesh for joining us today. It's been a very enjoyable session today. Yeah, basically everything regarding data analytics. So yeah, if you like this content, please like, share, subscribe on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook, also give us that like and share if you can. So yeah, with that, have a great day ahead, or whatever is left of today. So yeah, have a great week ahead. So thank you guys. See you guys. See you. Bye.
See ya.